We're live.
All right, welcome back. So this week we're talking all about how to prepare your dog for Halloween.
Yep.
Um, it's exciting time for your kids. It may be an exciting time for your dog, but there's some things that you want to do before Halloween, during Halloween, and after Halloween to prepare your dog and make it more, fun for your dog and easy for your dog. How's Archie with Halloween like these past years? Well, it's been a
Uh,
pandemic, but still, people were out last year, I think.
Last year, yeah, for
Yeah,
sure
yeah, yeah.
last year.
How was he
So
last year?
they go out early, right? So like the littler
Mhm.
kids, they're out like daylight still. So like there's no good time to walk them. So we just walk them as early as possible
Yep.
within reason. And so he gets spooked easily. So like
Mhm.
there'll be people that put like the inflatable things on their front yard.
Yes.
And if there's any kind of action happening with like their automated anyway, if they're like
Mhm.
pop, he'll like sniff it and then he'll start to move it and he'll jump back. So
Exactly.
we try to keep him out of it as much as possible, and
Yep.
then walk him much later if as possible, and then we sort of
Yep.
miss the gap, right? So
Exactly.
um, yeah, that's where he's at. But I guess one of those things
Mhm.
is, I guess, preparing him the day before Halloween
Exactly.
actually happens. So what's like a good way to actually prepare him before we get to that
Yeah.
day?
So before I start even going to preparing, you know
Yeah.
your dog, you know your dog's temperament, you know pretty much what they're afraid of. So preparing your dog before Halloween, you want to think about first your costumes. At this point, if you haven't got your kid's costume or your costumes, you just don't want to throw the costume on when the day before Halloween or the day of Halloween and let your dog experience you in a new form because then they start barking and it can stress them out a little bit. So my advice is, as soon as you get the costumes, the sooner the better. You want to put those on, but let your dog watch you put them on. Don't put them on in your room and then pop out like surprise, And I just see it in my head, and the
Hmm.
dog just like running all over the place. So
Yeah.
actually, let them see you put on a costume so they know it's you, and that works on making them feel more comfortable and not so frightened when you are going in and out the house, when different visitors are coming into the house as well. So they could be like good with that. Another thing you want to do is knocking on the door is a big thing, regardless of whether it's Halloween or not, with dogs
Yeah.
barking, with people knocking on the door. But you can start early helping your dog to relax when people are knocking on the door, starting to what we call desensitize your dog to the door knocks and people knocking in general. So it's really simple. All you do is, I do it in training all the time with my clients. You just knock, knock, knock. And when your dog starts barking, you give them a treat at the same time you're barking. And then what you notice over time is like, oh, I get a treat. And then you'll notice they start to, calm down a little bit when the knocking on the door happens. Not saying that all that's going to get done before Halloween, but
Yeah.
start where you can now and see where your dog gets to. And then you can kind of go into like, doing, seeing where they are once Halloween starts and preparing them. So another thing to talk about too, we're talking about the costumes. We talked about also desensitizing your dog. So a lot of times I do think about the dogs that are kind of like skittish or maybe fearful in general of people or definitely noises and sounds and stuff like that. So do you know, or like with Archie or just your friends in general, do they have any type of setup for us like having to even Archie, do you have him go somewhere during Halloween? So if you have visitors, he's not like right there at the door?
Yeah, we've done once or twice with my parents, and so
Mm-hmm.
because we're in a condo, my parents had a house, so
Yep.
usually we'll just have him a lot farther away from the door. There's no good place
Yep.
to keep him, but like I can imagine if like we're in a house or whatnot, we'd probably keep him like different room, TV
Mm-hmm.
on, just other sounds happening, right? So
Exactly.
yeah,
Yep.
yeah,
And so, yeah, so what Scott's saying and what I was trying to explain is that,
yeah,
instead of your dog being right there present for the door knock and the surprise of different costumes coming in, you want to give your dog a safe place to be when that's going down. So whether that means, someone knocks, you have your dog go to their crate and leave them in there, or even have them in a room with some type of music playing so it kind of drowns out that noise, especially if you have like a fearful dog or a dog that barks at every single noise that's happening in the home. Just in general, you don't know how your dog's going to react when people come to the door. So even if you think, oh, my dog's going to be fine, just make sure you have in the back of your head a safe place for your dog to go, whether that's the room or the crate. So they'll have that to kind of go to if you need be, and you're not like scrambling when visitors are at the door.
yeah.
Um, Another thing you could do before Halloween as well is you want to walk your dog early and get some of that energy and exercise out before visitors start coming to the door. You don't want your dog to be in the house, doing zoomies and getting all frantic, so much commotions going on. So try to exercise them. I talk a lot about exercise with my clients, like use it as a time to get all that energy out so that when they come back home, they're tired. And when people are knocking on the door, they're like,
Yeah.
And so you walk Archie. Does that help when you walk Archie before Halloween last year?
Yeah.
Did that help? Yeah.
Yeah, it makes a difference,
Yep.
right? Like just having them a little bit more tired, a little bit more just exercise, like you said. And we
Yep.
do that for anything major, like whether we have to bathe them or whatever.
Yep.
It's whenever there's something where we know that he could get excited by or unnerved by or whatnot, then we try to like drain his energy so he's not as reactive to whatever the thing is that could be triggering. So that makes sense.
Exactly.
A really good tip. Yeah, for sure.
Yep. And so moving on, let's talk about, so we talked about before Halloween and things to do. And so let's talk about once Halloween starts to take place. So we talked about moving the dog to the other room, but say you're going to be bringing your dog out with you, right? On those walks. So first things first, make sure you bring treats with you to help your dog to make it a fun experience. So if they do see fearful things or kind of seem a little skittish, you can give them a treat to kind of help them along. Another thing, we want to think about safety first. If you don't know, Halloween's like the highest time, well, they have the highest, of dogs that run away. Of dogs that run away during Halloween. And you can imagine like all these costumes and people walking around probably more than any time of year. And then they get afraid and they get scared and they run off. So you want to make sure before you leave the house, like we're going into the trip, that your dog has the proper ID tags on. They have a collar on. And if you have like a dog that's black like mine or darker, maybe get some type of reflective clothing or collar or something that can identify your dog, because it's going to be dark out or going into the night, and you want to be able to find your dog if something happens. And another thing, I know this year in my neighborhood, they're doing like a doggy treat, trick or treat, where they have houses on the map for dogs. You can go get treats for them. And I was going to do it anyways at my house. So if you're in my area, you can stop by. But rule of thumb, don't let the dogs eat any of the candy on the walk. So be mindful of the younger kids who just have the, candy right there and passing it over to the dog. They're not supposed to eat chocolate. That can be very deadly to them. And so just be mindful. And that's why I say bring treats out as well, so your dog's not missing out. Because kids, maybe they eat candy on the walk. I don't know, but you definitely don't want your dog eating that candy on the walk. So just make sure you're watching your kids. You're bringing out the treats and stuff like that. So on the walk, if you find, because it's a different time of year than when you walk your dog regularly around the neighborhood, if you do find that your dog is skittish, anxious, or just not feel like it's just not his thing, I would bring the dog back to the house, but do not leave your dog outside, because there's so much going on. You don't know how your dog's going to react when you're not there. So you're best off just, putting them in the house, giving them something to chew on, whether that's, a puzzle toy, a bone, or whatever it may be, and kind of letting them settle while you go out and turn on music. So have you ever had to bring Archie back, or usually he can make the whole?
Sometimes, usually we try to keep him away from it. It's kind of like similar to how we treat him with fireworks. We just keep him away. It's probably safer. But for him, it's more like he can be skittish. He's a big guy, and we always joke like he's the least courageous of all the big dogs. So
I know, right?
Yeah.
And And so if you have to bring your dogs home, it's not the worst thing. You want everyone to enjoy the trick or treating and things like that. So we went trick or treating. So we talked about preparing the dog. We went trick or treating. You got your dog's collars on. You got all your candy. Things are great. The kids get home, right? And so the next you know, the candy's on the table. The dog's jumping maybe on the table. And once again, instead of letting the kids, I'm not assuming that you're letting your kids do that, but just make sure they keep the candy in one section. And if it's on a table, try to push it away in the back from the dog so he's not jumping up there. And also that would be a great time to give your dog something to work on while you're going through your kids' candy, trying to figure out what's what. Okay. And then just moving forward, Halloween's over. There still may be decorations up outside. There's going to be candy bowls around the house, probably. Just make sure you're keeping those candy bowls up high and you're keeping them on back of the counter so your dog's not eating chocolate and you're not going to end up with like a $400 vet bill or higher because they enjoyed Halloween a little bit too much. Yeah.
But when you're like walking them outside the day after, is there anything you should be looking out for, or what do you think?
I would say the same thing you would be looking for ahead of time. So I probably didn't touch on this, but I can right now. So prior to Halloween, right now, a lot of people are putting up those decorations, whether they be the floppy things or whatever in the front yard. Those can be pretty scary to dogs. Always watch your dog's body language to see if, they're feeling anxious, if they're crouching down, if they're barking at things. And you want to keep note of that. But, and again, bring treats out with you. So if your dog starts to bark, you can give them a treat and kind of walk past those things so they can enjoy it. And so the same thing that you're going to do before Halloween, when that happens, you're going to do afterwards, because a lot of folks, including myself, I don't take down my decorations right away. So they're going to be up there for a little bit. So you kind of want to follow like the same thing until you kind of see the decorations start to come down. But that's the biggest thing to do after Halloween. And before we wrap up, I just want to let you know that I am going to be going live today because I buy a dog costume for my dog each year. I'm not going to tell you what it is yet. I want you guys to join the live tonight. I probably do around 8:00, but I definitely will put out a story to let you know. But there is a way to put on your dog's Halloween costumes. I have one dog who doesn't like costumes, but I'm a dog mom. I'm like, you have to wear something. So I made a compromise. So I'll go on there and talk about that. And then I have my little friend Cheska. She's never had Halloween before, but I got her big costume that's going to take some work putting on. So I want to talk to you about that during a live, how to put on your dog's Halloween costume as well. Yeah. But do you have anything to piggyback off of or anything like that before we hop off?
I mean, if you happen to miss the live from tonight, we'll drop a link in the comments in the next couple of days. You can watch this and then check that out, or vice versa type of thing. But yeah, like Pam was saying, it's a good time. We have a bit of time before Halloween. So get your game plan together, know what's going to happen. And then ideally you and your pups have an awesome Halloween. However it plays out, you're able to all enjoy it. And everyone is together afterwards too. So that's the goal.
And if you have questions, just pop them in the comments or reach out. I'm always there to answer them. So you watch this live, like I still don't know. Just reach out and I can help you out. Okay.
For sure.
All right. So enjoy your weekend and we'll see you next week.
Bye everyone.
Bye.